Question: are we going to be dealing with a hantavirus pandemic?
Now there is further evidence of the spread of hantavirus on board a cruise ship after a French passenger tested positive for the disease while being repatriated. Her condition is said to be...
How does hantavirus get on board a cruise ship? Well, the most likely scenario is, if it was contracted under ordinary circumstances, is someone would have to be exposed to some rodent dander. If you're here in the States, then you'd be looking at maybe the deer mouse, the field mouse, primarily those two. That's how that would spread. But again, through rodent dander, doesn't have to be that big of an infestation. Just has to be enough in your crawl space or your attic so the 50% of the air that flows through those areas flows to your house, and then wham, you've contracted the disease. This is something that already has about a 33% death rate when you contract it, but I just can't see it originating from on board the ship unless the conditions are, let's just say, less than sanitary. The conditions would need to thrive somewhere very dry, where that dander is able to accumulate lots of fecal matter, lots of urine, sebum, things of that nature, and then it would have to be spread on board through the air ducting or something like that, some type of ventilation. I'm curious to hear how this occurred. I hope it wasn't due to some gain of function research and then artificial introduction of this disease into the atmosphere.
Deteriorating. The World Health Organization says 7 people have now been confirmed with the Andes strain of the virus, and another 2 are suspected. The ship is moored off the Spanish island of Tenerife. Here's our correspondent, Vincent McAvenny.
It was the end of a very long and stressful journey as they pulled into Arrow Park Hospital. None of those on board had symptoms, but the UK authorities weren't taking any chances. The 20 British nationals, as well as a German resident of the UK and a Japanese national, will spend 72 hours here on the Wirral being tested, and then, if all is well, they'll self-isolate either at hospital accommodation or at home for 6 weeks.
We're going to be testing them very extensively, looking for any presence of the virus, so people will remember PCR testing from COVID days, so we'll be using that to look for the virus, and also checking their blood for the presence of antibodies that might suggest they've been exposed to it during the cruise or previously.
The MV Hondius dropped anchor off this port in Tenerife on Sunday morning, with the passengers having spent weeks at sea with the hantavirus outbreak confirmed on board and the news that 3 of their fellow passengers had died. And so the complex operation to get people off began, first by small boat transfer as they were ferried ashore in full protective gear. Then, with their belongings specially wrapped, they were put on buses with a thumbs up and a wave from these British passengers. And finally, they were on their way home, with this special charter flight taking them to Manchester Airport. Arrow Park Hospital has experience of this kind of thing.
I want a refund for what I spent to get on this damn cruise ship just to get exposed to hantavirus. I hope somebody's making some calls and getting their money back. This is BS.
2020, it took in the British nationals evacuated from Wuhan, China at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. But hospital bosses also recognise that those memories may cause local anxiety.
The fact that we were the sort of the isolation centre for COVID, for the coronavirus before it was a pandemic, that may trigger some people to feel more anxious about what that might mean. But really, this is an understood, known virus that that can be managed appropriately, and so it's very, very different.
But the latest news from the US will be of concern. Of the 17 US nationals who've been on board the ship now back in America, one is said to have mild symptoms and another has tested positive.
From what I understand, there were some Americans that were just dropped off in Nebraska somewhere to be quarantined with the hantavirus contracted from off of this cruise. I definitely want to look into that further. But all jokes aside, I hope that these people pull through just fine. And then they're dealing with the social anxiety of the masses. You know, civility lies in a delicate balance in this day and age. And, you know, it's just unfortunate. But it's also a part of the plan that pestilence is going to spread. Rumors of wars, things of that nature. and these things must come to pass, as they are the beginning of sorrows. I don't know. I want you guys to sound off in the comments. Check in with me. Let me know what you think. Is this BS? Do you think this spread it naturally? Do you think this was put into the environment of these passengers on purpose? What are we looking at? What have you heard? Let me know.
Meanwhile, British paratroopers have landed on Tristan da Cunha to assist a UK national who had disembarked the cruise on the remote mid-Atlantic island and who now has symptoms of the virus. Oxygen was among the supplies airdropped to him, as stocks on the island are critically low. Vincent McAvenny, BBC News.
Let's go down to our correspondent Guy Hedgecoe, who's in Tenerife. And Guy, tell us a little more about this latest French passenger and the concern and isolation that has to now follow. Yes, that's right.
Let's do this. Because no.
National Quarantine Unit in Omaha. According to health officials, the next stop for those Americans, a state-of-the-art medical center in Nebraska. The National Quarantine Unit in Omaha. According to health officials, the Americans, all currently asymptomatic, will be assessed by a doctor upon arrival for individual quarantine needs.
We do daily symptom and monitoring as well as vital sign checks, and they will be interacting with our staff through that process.
The facility has 20 rooms with special ventilation systems, private bathrooms, Wi-Fi, meal deliveries, and even exercise equipment.
Because you gotta have Wi-Fi
Clear how many
when
passengers
you're
will end up staying
quarantining.
there, and for how long.
Any developing chills, muscle aches and pains, any GI symptoms, any shortness of breath, any of the symptoms that are associated with an infectious syndrome like hantavirus. They will be looking for those.
If anyone starts to show symptoms, they could be moved to an even more secure facility nearby, the biocontainment unit. There, patients will be taken into isolation rooms that have high-tech filtration systems and specialized sterilization machines. The center has a history of housing and monitoring those exposed to highly infectious diseases. In 2014, it hosted Americans who were infected with Ebola virus. And in 2020, coronavirus patients flown out of China were also taken there. Now, preparations underway in Omaha for the latest challenge, just hours away.
Camila is joining us now from that center, and Camila, you've got a team of specialists now in place and ready to start assessing these passengers the moment they arrive.
That's right, Hallie. This is a highly trained team of doctors, nurses, and staff, all volunteers who know how to deal with infectious diseases and who say they're going to try to keep life as normal as possible for these passengers, similar to staying at a hotel if they are having to quarantine.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking.
You know what's not going to help? Cloth masks. That's not going to help. Panic is not going to help either. You know, I'm a stern and staunch proponent of having the Most High in your corner. In order to do that, you got to be in His. So in these last days, you know, keep your head on a swivel. But most of all, pray to the big man. Do what He tells you to do if you want some favor. But again, I want you to check in the comments. Let me know what you think is going on. Is the hantavirus spread it naturally, or is this another attempt to, you know, get us tested for certain cooperative tendencies, or are they trying to do some population control? Is Bill Gates behind this? You know, whatever the kids are saying these days. I want to know what you think. I'll be sounding off on it. Maybe I'm going to start a Discord or something like that if we need to have further discussions where you want my serious commentary. If I'm suspicious about anything, I might feel up to disclosing it in a forum like that. I don't know. But I'll talk to y'all later. This is crazy. My immune system is shot. The last thing I need is some goddamn hantavirus.